The International Monetary Fund says South Korea's debt-to-GDP ratio will approach 60% by 2029, having already surpassed 50% in 2021. The analysis comes as the IMF released its Fiscal Monitor report on Wednesday, where it said global debt levels could increase with 2024 being an election year in many countries around the world. Our Seung-jae has more.
The South Korean government's debt-to-gross domestic product ratio already exceeded 50% for the first time in 2021 and is expected to reach close to 60% by 2029. That's according to the International Monetary Fund's Fiscal Monitor report released on Wednesday, which included the debt-to-GDP ratio from 2015 to 2029 in 37 advanced countries, including South Korea, the United States, and Japan. The report says South Korea's debt-to-GDP ratio hit 55.2% in 2023, a 1.4 percentage point increase from the year before. IMF data also shows that the country's debt-to-GDP stood at 40.8% in 2015, but surged from 42.1% in 2019 to 48.7% in 2020 during the COVID-19 pandemic. It reached 51.3% in 2021, exceeding the 50% mark for the first time. The UN agency also estimated that South Korea's debt will reach 56.6% this year and will continue to increase, hitting 59.4% in 2029. The IMF also said that global debt levels are at risk of increasing due to 2024 being an election year. Vitor Gaspar, the head of the International Monetary Fund's Fiscal Affairs, said that history and empirical evidence show that governments tend to spend more or tax less in an election year. 88 economies or economic areas representing more than half of the world's population have either held or are due to hold elections this year. The IMF forecasts the U.S. fiscal deficit to remain above 6% over the next 5 years, with Gaspar noting the U.S. has ample fiscal space due to measures they can impose on the spending and revenue side. However, like the U.S., Gaspar says China's fiscal deficit is projected to rise from more than 7% of GDP last year to around 8% by 2029. This could have consequences for the global economy as China is a major lender to developing countries. The Fiscal Monitor report called for countries to make a renewed push towards improving their fiscal positions, especially due to the tight monetary policies in many central banks, which are expected to be loosened later this year. Seung-jae, Arirang News.